Hello folks, Xanhast here, and today we're looking at the latest entry in the Yakuza saga, Like a Dragon, Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii. Truth be told, I haven't played every Yakuza title to date. I jumped on board when RGG rebranded, in the West at least, from Yakuza to Like a Dragon, with the introduction of the new lovable protagonist, Ichiban Kasuga.
Whoa! Aren't you President Ichiban from Ichiban Confections?
I sure am.
Eat at Ichiban's Ichiban Sunday.
But from my understanding, it was always known as Like a Dragon in Japan, and the studio behind the series, Ryuga Gotoku, literally translates to Like a Dragon. A little fun fact for you there. Anywho, as someone who loves all kinds of RPGs, the switch from a brawler to a turn-based, party-focused combat system wasn't a turn-off to me, and I loved every minute with the 2020 release, and again with Infinite Wealth from last year. But since I've not played all the earlier releases, the only exposure I've had to Goro Majima, this game's protagonist, were with his appearances in the Ichiban-focused games. Even with the minimal amount of time I've seen of him, he always oozed charisma, badassery, and he's just an all-round great character I wanted to see more of. Now, to my shame, I tend to stick to the mainline titles in game series, and even skip the Kazuma Kiryu-led Like a Dragon Gaiden, the man who erased his name. But the trailer for Pirate Yakuza presented an insanely fun-looking game with Majima at the helm. Pun intended. So, here we are. The story follows 6 months after the events of Infinite Wealth, with Goro Majima washing ashore Rich Island after being shipwrecked, whereupon he's rescued by a young local lad named Noah. With his memory in tatters, no recollection of how he even got there, or who he even is. And if that isn't bad enough, ye olde pirates roam these waters, and in true Yakuza fashion, it doesn't take long before Majima is knuckle deep in some pirate skulls. With the begrudging assistance of Noah's drunkard father Jason, it seems our good captain likely shipwrecked en route to Nele Island, as there is a strong Yakuza contingent present ashore. Now, if you've played Infinite Wealth, this island will be familiar to you, as a lot of stuff went down there previously. With the need to find transport and these pirate cosplayers out for revenge, it's not long until Majima is the new captain of his very own vessel.
But there's somewhere I'm trying to get to on this ship.
And with that, we depart to sail the seas, cutlass in hand and the wind in our hair. One of our new companions, Masaru, fills in some blanks about himself and Jason's past, centered around some 200-year-old lost shipwrecked treasure worth $1 billion dues, and it may also include the elixir of eternal life. We're now embroiled in the hunt for this lost treasure and Majima's lost memory. Before I move on, the musical number that kicks off the departure was something I didn't exactly know I wanted. It's a hell of a catchy tune, and I found myself singing it in the shower a few times since putting the game down.
The world is ours, and that is how it ought to be. Look around you, kid. Waters unknown as far as the eye can see.
Waters unknown?
Damn right.
To waters unknown!
Heave-ho, off we go. On our ship to waters unknown. Welcome aboard. There's no stopping us now that we're chasing after our dreams. Take the helm and take heart. Take your fill and take care. We'll be rich as we can be, just as long as we believe. And we'll always believe. Heave-ho, off we go. On our ship to waters unknown.
When it comes to presentation of the game, graphically, I think it passes the bar. Naturally, it looks a lot like Infinite Wealth, which is to be expected, as whole swathes of assets and locations are reused for this title. I did encounter a few lighting issues in certain parts of the game, mainly whilst out at sea or fighting through caves featured in the New Island Expedition segments. They weren't bad enough that I couldn't see what was going on, but it just didn't feel or look as it should when you compare it to other areas in the game. When it comes to the actual assets on show, the fidelity isn't next gen exactly, but I don't think it needs to be. As a package, the game does look beautiful, especially around the Honolulu sections. The warmth of the environments and the vibrancy of the colours make it a very pleasing experience in my opinion. It does have its fair share of dank, dark areas too, like Madlantis, the pirate haven. Thankfully though, there is plenty of fire on show to illuminate the dark corners and turn this refuge into a wacky pirate carnival. If you're a big fan of investing time and effort into creating builds within your role-playing games, there isn't much here to sink your teeth into, unfortunately. For Majima, it basically comes down to having the money and pirate points to purchase upgrades from a menu. You can drop your cash into stat upgrades and certain buffs that you find in other Yakuza titles, like being able to order as much food as you like from restaurants, even if you're fully healed, and unlocking new heat actions, which are special combat maneuvers you can pull off if you meet certain requirements. But by about halfway through your playtime, you'll likely have purchased the majority of the talents that you like the sound of. The rest will just be upgrading your health and attack power. Both of Majima's combat styles are quite good though. You can fight in his more traditional Mad Dog style, using his signature weapon, the Tanto, or his Seadog style, the new pirate-themed playstyle, utilising dual-wielded cutlasses, a pistol and a grappling hook. Both have pros and cons, and I found his Mad Dog style to be very effective against a single opponent, and the Seadog having slightly better area of effects and gap closing potential. I'm probably wrong on that, but that's how it felt for me at least. Now outside of pure upgrades, along the journey you can equip up to 10 rings, which do offer a tiny bit more customization, but in the end, just equipping the ones with the best stats is the way to go, outside of maybe one or two that actually provide really good effects. But despite the shallow upgrade system, the combat itself is more or less what you experienced in the pre-Ichiban days. You can grab objects on the street and use them to batter your enemies, dodge and block attacks, then counter with your own slick moves. It's still really fun and visually pleasing to see. You also have the pirate rank system this time around. Pretty much all activities you complete will award pirate points, and some content is locked behind your pirate rank. You start at rank 1, progressing to rank 5, which honestly leveled up very fast. I never found myself unable to do what I wanted because my rank wasn't up to par. Unless you ignore everything else and just rush the main story quest, only then could I see you hit a minor wall, which could be easily overcome anyway. The same negatives that are present with building up Majima are present with the shipbuilding as well. Once you have the dough, simply purchasing the hardest hitting cannons you can will likely do you for the rest of the game. And like with Majima, beefing up your ship is relatively easy. Simply buy what you want from the menu, then it's just a case of sinking more money into the durability of your ship. I was done with my upgrades pretty soon, and past that point, never really felt threatened during the ship combat encounters, outside of a few late game battles which I still never lost. One of the better parts of the ship system is your ability to build out your own crew, who will be with you on the seas. Featuring old faces and new ones, finding the right crew member for every job does take some time, especially by the point in the game where you've upgraded your ship to allow even more crew members on board. You can recruit a lot of pirate wannabes from side stories, rewards from minigames, and even some famous faces from the deluxe edition, if you feel so inclined. Each character will either be better suited to being behind the cannon or jumping over the enemy ship for fisticuffs, and it can be damn right hilarious seeing characters who wouldn't be caught dead on a pirate ship, swinging over to the enemy deck with weapon in hand, but that's part of the charm I think. Despite the negatives I've mentioned for both Majima and the shipbuilding, I just don't think it would benefit from a super deep restrictive talent tree sort of progression system. It seems like the focus of the game is to have fun and tell a compelling story, which I'm all for. Outside of combat, there is still plenty to do, both in Madlantis and Honolulu. With the always present minigames and side stories, you can unwind with a bit of karaoke, throw some darts, shoot some pool and the like. I did enjoy the returning Dragon Kart minigame, which you can easily lose a few hours to by completing all the circuits and battles, unlock some new karts and upgrade them. If you're a bit of a trivia nut like me, the Unabara school is back too with our good friend Ikari, so put your knowledge to the test and get those certificates. Sicko Snap is back, along with Crazy Delivery, if you fancy capturing perverts to put on film, or racing against the clock to deliver some pizza and burgers. And by doing all these minigames, it helps crank up your pirate rank and earn you those sweet points you need whilst providing a lot of fun on the side. At the start it might feel like a bit of a chore, but money making isn't too much of a grind either. There is a new bounty hunter system whereby you can head to the icon on the map, initiate a fight with a wanted fugitive and beat their ass for a nice chunk of change. Not until the late game did I actually feel the need for money, when I was unlocking the final health and attack power upgrades, which were becoming rather expensive indeed. But overall, the minigames on offer is rather extensive, so there is bound to be something you enjoy if you fancy taking a little break from the main story beats. Now though, the side stories. Typically these are where the zaniness is cranked up to 11, but what was featured here weren't that memorable for me. A lot of them seemed rather forgettable. The only side missions that coaxed bona fide laughter out of me involved Masaru, the cook, and his search for love. I won't spoil it for you if you haven't experienced it yet, but it's a genuine highlight. Regarding technical performance, I played this on my PC setup, which isn't top tier by current standards. I still run a 3080, and I ran this fine on 4K, 60 FPS, with some assistance from DLSS, and could easily achieve well over those frames playing at 1440p. Aside from some lighting issues mentioned earlier, I didn't experience any crashes or bugs that I can recall. So overall a very clean run. Even on Steam Deck using medium settings, 45 FPS was stable and a very comfy time sat on the sofa. If you like collecting achievements like me, this one isn't difficult to complete. Unlike most Yakuza or Like a Dragon titles being somewhat time consuming to get the 100%, none of the achievements are locked behind playing the game again on New Game Plus or beating it on the hardest difficulty. Overall, it took me about 37 hours of playtime to grab the 100%, and outside of completing every single challenge in the log, I did everything that the game had to offer. I think when it comes down to it, it's a perfectly good game. The story on offer is interesting enough to get you invested, but as someone who really enjoyed 2020's Yakuza Like a Dragon and the follow-up Infinite Wealth, I wouldn't put this one on the same level. But as a side game filling in the gap until we get the next mainline title, I'm more than happy with it. The villains were villainous enough for me to cheer their demise, and the ending wrapped everything up nicely, departing with a nice little tease of what's to come next in this saga. If you're not already on board the Yakuza Like a Dragon train, this one might not fully land, but given the plot point of Majima's amnesia, at least you'd both be uncovering this story's secrets and characters with the same level of recognition. I do think the game does quite well in attempting to give you some backstory, however. There are flashbacks, conversations with key characters and whatnot that do explain some of the past, but let's be honest, I mean, it's just not the same as experiencing it yourself and being immersed in what came before. So despite some of the negatives I perceived, overall, I enjoyed my time with it a lot. It's a recommend from me if you're a Yakuza fan. If you just want a cool story, some wacky antics, and actually competent pirate action, looking at you Skull and Bones, it's a recommend too. If you're on the fence, there's a playable demo on Steam to try your hand at. Alternatively, it'll likely be on sale later in the year, if you don't mind the wait. And that's all I've got for you today. Comment down below where I'm wrong and what parts of the game you enjoyed the most. I'm always interested in hearing other people's takes. I hope you've enjoyed this little look at Pirate Yakuza, and if you did, I'd be honoured if you consider subscribing for future releases. Take care of yourselves, and have a wonderful day. Toodle pip.